Oh man, today's good because we have some crazy questions that you guys asked me last week and we're gonna answer them right now. Questions wrapped around G10, like composites, glass reinforced resin that basically you machine, it breaks down your tools, it gets all of the glass up in the air, it goes into your lungs, it literally can kill you, and it's no joke. And we also have some questions on quoting work and conical tools, like crazy angle tools. How do you actually program them and set the speeds and feeds? So we're gonna actually tackle this right now in this video. And this is our series Levels, where you guys ask me tough questions, put it in the comments, and then next week on Friday, I will be answering those questions. And together, we all rise levels because knowledge is power. All right, the first question is from Alex7535. How do you handle machining materials like G10 or other glass embedded materials that could put harmful dust in the air? Now, a lot of people are gonna freak out because I'm gonna say something so simple, and it's not what everybody has heard and it's not what they do. But I've actually machined G10 on a high level doing complex, crazy parts that go to the bottom of the ocean, meaning you can't have any delamination. And I've done a ton of parts for SpaceX and other rocket companies. So from the bottom of the ocean to space, no delamination, perfect finishes. You know what the trick is? Run coolant. So 25 years ago, when I started running G10 and everybody was talking about vacuums and the air and the dust, my young mind back then just thought, you know what? You actually flood it with coolant, it takes all the dust to the bottom of the machine, and simply it goes down into the tank and it doesn't come up into your lungs. So in all those years, I never had it come up into my lungs. Now, everyone's freaking out right now because you're thinking, oh, exactly, it goes down into the machine, into the pump, through the system, it clogs everything up and causes damage in your machine, but that's not exactly correct. If you don't do anything and you don't solve the problem, then yeah, you're gonna have some issues. But by using some common sense and being a little creative, we can actually fix the machine so it runs flawlessly and it keeps your operators safe. Now, if you're running coolant, there's a few things we have to do, a few problems that we have to solve. You can't just simply say run coolant. Now, when you look at G10, what is it? It's glass-filled fiber reinforced epoxy resin. Pretty fancy, but at the end of it, you basically have glass sheets and you have resin particles that come into the glass sheets, and then you got heat that comes in, and then layer after layer after layer gets pressed together to create the thickness. So sometimes you have a 1/4 inch thick, sometimes you have G10 that's 1 inch thick, 2 inches thick, 3 inches, 4 inches thick. We've cut some crazy manifolds, O-ring grooves, all of it. No delamination, no issues, but it comes in all different types of sizes, and it's tough. It's tough on your tools. If you just use regular carbide, you're just gonna waste through tools. And as the tools are dulling, they're gonna delaminate the part. So first thing you wanna do is make sure you have a good coolant. So we use Synergy 735, and everyone knows that. Now, why is it good for G10? It's good for G10 because it is a semi-synthetic that does not eat at your machine. A lot of people look at synthetic coolants and they eat at the seals, they eat at your machine and causes damage over time. But this particular coolant, they actually did something proprietary to make it so it doesn't eat at your seals. So the same coolant is not eating at the resin in the G10. So it's compatible with the thermoset polymer resin. It's not gonna break it down. So that's the first thing. You gotta make sure you have good coolant. Second is you need to have the right tools. So we're using diamond tools because they hold up. We're using burr tools that actually have these little spikes on them. And the way that you actually engage the material, it just cuts it flawlessly. It's absolutely beautiful. You look at G10 and it seems like it's such a hard material to machine. And you get these burr tools. You can get them from Kennametal, from companies like Onsrud. There are some incredible tools out there that are made for cutting G10, carbon fiber, and different composites. Now, the tools come in and they cut so cleanly, it just simply does not delaminate the part. Now, you got coolant on it, you got the right tools on it, you got all the chips, nothing's coming into your nose, nothing's coming into your body. It's going to the bottom and it's going down into the tank, into the pump. So now comes the creative part. the common sense part. Okay, how do we keep the glass, the resin, the materials from going into the machine and causing damage? First off, at the bottom of your machine, you'll have some grates where the coolant goes down into the tank. We want to cover that with a filter. So when you look at filters, you can look at different areas. Like they have great filtration and filters for yard maintenance. So a lot of things that you do in the flower bed, you can use those same filters to actually grab and trap media. When you look at fish tanks, a lot of you guys know, I love saltwater reef tanks. I've been into reef tanks for, 30 years. And through the building of wet dry trickle filters and different filters, I've learned about the different types of media that you actually have that mechanically stops material from going through. And there's different mesh types. And if you go beyond the saltwater reef tanks, you can go to medical grades. And now you're actually filtering blood and different things. So there's so many different levels. You just need to use common sense, because sometimes if you go too much, you'll make it hard for the coolant to go through also. So what we do is we use yard media in a few different places. One, we create a little frame and we put it right at the top of the machine to catch all the big stuff. So you see the coolant going, you'll see the G10 kind of collect around it. It'll start getting bigger and bigger. And when you change parts, you simply have to move it to the side a little bit or scoop it up, have a nice big bend right there. And now comes for a secondary. So inside your coolant tank, when you actually have your filter, then put a filter wall right there. So the coolant going through to the pump, you're actually catching it. And again, a few times a day, you just simply go in, make sure that you got a good mask, make sure you got good gloves, and you scoop it up and throw it away. And the third thing that we did was we actually took media, something that nice and strong, and the sheet media, and we actually wrapped the pump and zip tied it. So if all else failed, anything coming in would actually be stopped right there from going through that pump. And then the coolant would come through and it'd be nice and clean. Now this system for over 20 years worked for us. We never had an issue. Now, is it kind of painful to go in and actually clean out all the filters? Absolutely, but my guys are safe and we're not breathing it in. So flood it with coolant, take it to the bottom machine, filter, have the right cutting tools, and you will have no issues. Quick note about our machining process. Over 10 years, we did a ton of G10 parts. We always used older machines that had already lived their life. So when a machine got replaced, we kept the old machine, we created the filter system, and we just dedicated that machine to G10. Because if you take a new machine, you cut G10 in it, you will have the glass in it, and that will create problems with a new machine. So use older machines, get the work, make the money, boom. All right, so the next question is from Joseph Early, 605. When we're using a conical end mill, like a 30 degrees, how do we calculate our RPMs? Now, this is a long question, and you guys can freeze it right now and look at it, but basically he's saying that nobody can answer this question, and that what he's heard is if you had a 1-inch diameter at the top and a 1/2-inch diameter at the top, you would take the center, the middle ground, which would be 3/4 of an inch, and you would calculate your surface foot utilizing that 0.750. That is close, but that's not it. The answer to the question is, if you have a 1-inch at the top and you have a 1/2 inch at the bottom, where is the tool engaged in the material? However deep you sink it, like if it's 1 inch, and you sink it and you're basically at the top of the material, the highest point that's getting cut, you're utilizing 900 thousandths of that tool. So you would calculate the largest diameter engaged in the material. Not the smallest, but the largest. So if it was 900, it'd be 900. If the tool was 1 inch to 1/2 an inch and it was only halfway down and 3/4 of an inch was engaged in the material at its highest point, then it would be 3/4. So simply do the largest diameter and everything else by default will be okay. If you went to the smallest, then it would spin too fast for the larger diameter. Make sense? All right, next question. All right, that's 2 questions down from last week. And make sure you guys think about crazy questions, hard questions, put it in the comments so we have something to answer next week. Third and last question right here from Raider 1628. how do you go about quoting jobs? Also, how do you go about price breaks for different quantities? All right, what's cool is there's actually a video on YouTube called How to Build a Machine Shop. We'll put it up right here, and I actually go through the process of quoting jobs. Now, whenever you have a job and you have like one part, you're gonna figure out what your hourly rate is. So let's just say hourly rate is $100 an hour. So you're gonna look at the part. Now you're going to think about, how long is it gonna take me to program, set up the machine, run the part, inspect the part, do the second operation or however many operations, set up the machine, inspect the part, double check, package, all of it. How long is it gonna take me? So let's say it takes 20 hours. And now you have one part, and the part takes 60 minutes. So basically you have 20 hours, an additional hour, that's 21 hours. Then I'm gonna look at it, I'm gonna see how much confidence I have in the job. What if it takes me longer? What if it doesn't take me longer and I get it done in half the time? I'll look at it and I'll find a number that makes sense for me. Let's just say we're gonna go up to 22 hours. I'll run 3 different parts to make sure I get one perfect. I'll take the 22, I'll calculate it by the $100 an hour. I'll come up with an amount, and because it's only one part, whatever the total is, that'll be the price for the one part. Now, if I had to get anodizing, if I had to get any other outside process, I'd actually add it on to the total. I would add 15 or 20% just so I can make a little money also on that. And then the total cost would be the price for the one part. Now, what if I had 20 parts? All right, I got 20 hours of setup, I got 20 parts, I make it 40 hours total. I add on my outside process and maybe a little bit more for packaging. Now that total amount is divided by 20 parts. Make sense? Now, why is it such a big difference? Because the setup is now divided by 20. It was 20 hours. Now the setup per part is only 1 hour per part, where it was 20 hours for one part. If I go to 100 parts, I'm taking the setup and I'm dividing the setup by 100 parts or 1,000 parts. So the setup becomes nothing. Prototypes are expensive because they're paying for the programming and the setup and all of it. But the more quantities you have, you simply divide it by the setup. And then because you have greater quantities, then you can adjust your $100 per hour and look at the type of material. If it's aluminum, I might go to $85 an hour or $75 an hour or even $65 an hour if it has thousands of pieces, and it's gonna allow me to walk away from the machine. As a shop owner, I'm gonna look and make judgments based on what's good for me and how confident I am in that work. Makes sense, right? Now, something that I also do, and I've said it in the past, I like to dig my roots into companies. I like to make it so we create a partnership. So when I run that part, they will never have somebody else run it. They'll always come back to me. So now how do I do that? I look at the quantities and I figure out how to do a custom setup for that company. And I do an NRE charge, so a non-reoccurring charge. So basically I'll look and I'll be like, look, we have all of this tooling that we have to purchase for the job. We have this special fixture plate that we're going to create. Anybody else is gonna charge you that full setup every single time they run the job. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna charge you one time for it, and then this will become property for that job. It'll stay at my shop, but whenever you order the parts, you're gonna come to me. I'm gonna use this custom fixtures that you already paid for. I'm gonna put it in. Instead of having a setup that takes this long, it's gonna take this long. So you basically will pay for 10% of the setup that you would have paid for. We already have the tools and we're only using it for this job. So basically you're just paying for the labor and time of machining that part. And that's basically the same thing if the customer is gonna run it in-house. So we get the fixture, we do the NRE charge, I dig my roots to them because every single time they're like, oh, Why would I go somewhere else? Titan has the fixturing, Titan has the setup. Let's just go to him. He gives us the best price. And that's how we keep that relationship and we keep building on it. And then as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a head of my machine shop, I'm gonna constantly figure out ways to solve their problems, to take manufacturing to the highest level, to decrease their times, their prices, so they never leave and they never take the work away. Boom. If you guys aren't on MFG Connect, our app built for machinists, where you can get work from customers, where you can get jobs, where just like TikTok, you can look at machining and be in community with everyone. It is a machining community. So MFG Connect, you can download it on Apple or Android. Boom. All right, that is the end of our episode right here of Levels, baby. So comments, make sure that you like and subscribe. I love you guys. Until next Friday, boom.